All right, hello, welcome to a Channel of Curiosity. I am Rebecca and I am here with my friend Larissa. She's come back to chat with us some more, and I'm really excited about it. In case you don't know Larissa, she's a 1-3 splenic manifester and has some amazing energy and insights to share. So tell us a little more, Larissa, just in case somebody didn't catch the last episode, which they will listen to right after this one. Tell us a little more about you.
So I'm a money mindset coach. I help people really change their mindset around spending and money so that they can see their money in a different way, as well as manage it a little bit easier. It's a lot easier to manage your money once you don't have spending habits kind of standing in your way. I also am that initiator, right? So I initiate people into getting their shit together. That is my incarnation cross, is helping people get their shit together. So I am the one who's here to say, hey, you're going to do this because you're not going to disappoint me. And you paid me to help you.
Okay. See, that's what's so perfect. And I know we've talked about this, but it's like to watch a manifester initiate people out of this piece, like it's so powerful. And it's been so fun observing you in that energy. Like you do it so well. Like you were saying, like you're gonna do this and you're not gonna disappoint me. Like I can't imagine saying that to somebody.
I don't say it directly to people, but I give the assignment and I say, here's the due date and get it done.
Yes, that's important. So you really help get that energy initiated, which I think is so important with money, especially because there's just so much around money. So to just initiate this healing in that space feels really beautiful.
Hmm.
But today we're going to chat a little more about manifesting,
Yes.
manifesting in life and just like all the aspects of it. And I'm really excited about this one because I've been curious about manifesting for a very long time and have been doing my best with it and um kind of honestly got a little bitter and gave up for a little while. And so it's fun to come back from a more healed place and look at it from this perspective. So
Mhm.
my first question, I'm curious about, uh, tell me a little more about the psychology behind manifesting as you understand it. Like what is going on?
Yeah. So if we look at it, and I like to look at things, the one line in me, of course, likes to look at things from a purely psychological standpoint and then kind of go into the woo woo side of it. So, from a purely psychological standpoint, if you manifest and you genuinely believe that that is something that is going to come through for you, you're consistently looking for those opportunities for that to come through for you. And eventually, you will find that opportunity for it to come through for you. So, if we take out that the universe is orchestrating things, the universe is going to make it happen. If you just say, this is going to happen for me and genuinely believe it, and that's the thing that gets a lot of people, you have to genuinely believe that this is going to happen for you, then you will find that opportunity for it to happen for you.
So it's a lot like the pink elephant essentially. Like if you're well, no, that's something else. It's the red car. It's the red car. Like if you're thinking of a red
Yes.
car, then you're suddenly going to see red cars everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Or, if it's like a specific car that you want or that you love, you're going to see them everywhere because you're looking for them.
Exactly. So just moving into that genuine belief, that's what opens up the opportunities, kind of
Mhm.
switches your energy. It switches what you're paying attention to. But
Yes.
like you said, that's where people get really stuck. And this is what I see as well, where it's like people are really clingy to what isn't working for them while claiming they
Mhm.
don't want that thing, which I mean, I'm guilty of doing in the past for sure. But it's like, oh, I can't just quit my job. I need money. Like I can't, it's like, okay, but if it's somebody like a friend who does really good with um the vinyl stuff. Like she makes t-shirts and cups, like all kinds of vinyl stuff. And she's had people ask her to do make products for her. But she's really nervous to quit her job. And so like there's part of me that's like, no, this job is killing you, just do it. But there's these beliefs that get in the way of like, oh, I can't just go do this thing.
Right.
So how can you start to switch those beliefs?
So, an easy way really to do this is instead of trying to manifest that big vision all the time, because a lot of people get really stuck in, I want to manifest the top, right? This is what I want, ultimately, end goal. And then they try and put a timeline on that that maybe isn't realistic. Start with little incremental manifestations. So, like, I can make $500 in my business next month. I can make $1,000 in my business next month. And then make sure that you genuinely believe that you can do it and you will put in the effort. Of course, effort is always part of manifestation. You can't just sit back and be like, okay, fall into my lap now. There is some energy and effort that has to go into it. But do those smaller manifestations where then you can prove to yourself, oh, if I say something's going to happen, I can, in fact, make it happen.
Yes. Okay. I like that. Just set the goal small because I know I've done that too. I'm like, I'll just make $10,000 this quarter. I
Yes.
don't know how, but it'll happen. But yeah, having those small and then continuously proving to yourself, because then you start
Right.
to see the belief, then you start to believe it. I can do it. If
Hmm.
500, well then even if you have to go smaller, like, well then maybe I can make 600
Right.
and just continually build that up for any little trust. And so the effort part too, I think this is what trips people up, especially in the human design space, where
Hmm.
I think specifically for projectors, they get really stuck on the wait for the invitation piece. But as we know, everybody's designed to wait on some level.
Hmm.
And and yeah, so they get kind of stuck on like, well, if I'm waiting, what like am I how do I put in effort and like does that mean I'm not waiting? And it gets really confusing. Do you have any thoughts on the energetics of that part? I have thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
It's so everyone's meant to wait, right? But that's more of a so like for a projector, right? You are waiting for other people to invite you to give the advice and to invite you to teach, right? Whereas a manifester, I'm waiting for the universe to tell me this is your time to initiate and to kind of drop that energy into me. So, not manifesting things that involve other people or involve something that you are not supposed to initiate, right? So, like, not manifesting, I am going to teach this specific person, and you shouldn't really be manifesting specifics, anyways. There should always be a little bit of room for things to come through in a different way, but not saying, I am going to teach this specific person this thing that they definitely need to hear because I know best and I need to teach them, and instead manifesting, well, I want to bring in a client this month, or I want to help one person and help that singular person change their path, and not necessarily putting like a specific person behind that.
I think that's so important because yeah, people have free will. Like
Mhm.
we can't manipulate other people based on our manifestations.
Right.
That's not cool. But connecting the right people. And for me, it really feels like what hit me energetically as a projector, it's like, yes, I'm waiting for the correct recognition so that that can bring the correct invitation. But on my side, the kind of doing aspect is essentially clearing out my energy and getting myself ready for that invitation. Am I studying what I need to study? You know, am I taking care of myself so that I can show up as that guide? Because if I'm using my energy, if I think, oh, I've got to go out and do X, Y, and Z, that's going to burn me out. I'm not going to be available for that invitation. I
Mhm.
think, oh, I'm going to make $10,000. Okay, let me just email everybody that I know and see if they want to pay me. Like that's
Right.
that's not going to work as well.
Right.
So yeah, it's just the energetics behind it is what fascinates me, and I haven't quite been able to communicate it effectively. But how do you feel about the energetics? Because I feel like how you are taking care of your energy is really affecting how you're going to manifest.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you are obviously, as you just said, if you're in an energetic state where you are throwing all your energy at something that maybe doesn't necessarily matter or isn't something that was a line that you should have been throwing your energy at, then how do you expect any other energy to come to you when you have already filled your energy? And so your energy has to first off be open to any possibility. So if you say, I want $10,000 in my business, you have to be open to that coming out of nowhere and from an opportunity that you hadn't even considered, because the universe works in mysterious ways, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they are going to try and send you what you need, and you don't know what you need, which is another thing that a lot of people get really hung up on, including myself, because I would love to know that what I need is 3 one-on-one clients, but maybe the universe is saying, no, actually, what you need is to do something bigger. Maybe you need to do a brand deal. Maybe you need to go and collaborate with somebody. Maybe there is a different opportunity out there for that money to come in, and you have to be pretty open to that opportunity being presented to you.
For sure. For sure. You can have plans. What's that? You want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Like, so I think I mean, it is obviously important to have an end goal in mind and to have these aspirations, because I believe that this, if it's whatever it is you want to manifest, it's coming to you for a reason. Like, it's not
Mm.
just a frivolous thing. It wants to be experienced through you. And so it's okay to identify with that and to allow that. But like you said, you can't control how it comes through. Something like a visual that always hits me, like when we're stuck on our old beliefs, or we're stuck on trying to exert our energy doing the thing, that's like closing our hand, that's constricting the energy. And so
Mhm.
just like you said, we can't receive when that's happening because we're using our energy somewhere else. But if you can relax and trust and open your hand, then there's the possibility and the potential for opportunities to come in and to land there. So interesting. What kind of manifestation rituals do you do to help yourself?
Well, as you know, I love my candle magic.
Yeah.
So I love to light a little candle and just think about, what I want to feel like and really feel into the energy of what is coming through and what I want to come through. I also really, again, I just love fire. I just love fire. I like lighting things on fire. Okay. I like to write them down on a bay leaf also and like burn the bay leaf to watch it go into the universe as the smoke. I think that's probably the thing for me. I feel like the smoke sends it into the energy or into the universe. That energy is going out. But a lot of people really like scripting. I don't love scripting just because, like, I feel like I need to be able to speak it. Like that defined throat chakra needs to say it out loud and to
Mm.
tell people about it. But I will write it down in my phone so that I remember. And then you have to, the biggest thing at the end of these rituals, you have to just trust that it's going to happen. You have to let it go. And you have to just keep doing the things that you need to do in order for that to come through.
Okay, so the trusting aspects. I feel like this is a lot, like we were just kind of touching on it, but this really hones in on it. Like, it's about trusting.
Hmm.
And I know that's so hard. This relates to one of the questions that we got. We put little question boxes in, and someone asked, like, how do you trust? How do you be patient when you're waiting for it? It didn't just like magically happen. Like a genie didn't come down and make it look instantly. So how do you support yourself to be patient?
Sometimes it's good for me to just forget about them. So, like my most recent manifestation that has come through, first off, make sure that you're setting a timeline that's not outrageous. Like, don't be like, I want $10,000 tomorrow. That's a little outrageous. Like, it's not realistic. You need to be setting realistic expectations, things that can actually come through for you. But I manifested in September. I said, I want 3 viral videos on any platform, doesn't matter where, by the end of the year. And I also want 10,000 followers on TikTok, because that felt like a very realistic goal and something that I absolutely could achieve. And then I sat back and I kept doing my thing. I kept showing up. I kept putting myself out there, and it came through at the end of December where I got, and it came through big. My last viral video, I got like 2 little baby virals. I didn't put a number on viral also. Like
Yeah.
some people could have done that, but like for me, it was just like more than I usually get. Like ideally, more than 10,000 views is like more than I usually get. So I
Mhm.
had 2 little baby ones, but then that last one hit hard and it got 1.6 million views. And it brought in those last 6,000 followers that put me over that 10,000 mark.
That one was really fun too. Because like I was watching, I remember I'd wake up and like whenever it was time to check TikTok, I'd go to your page. I don't think I told you this. I would just go and be like, how many did she get today?
Yeah, it took like a week and a half to really get up to that 1 million. Like it started slow and I was like, oh, this is great. I got like 100,000. And then it would go up like 500,000, 200 more thousand, 300 more thousand. And it was wild to watch.
It's so crazy once the algorithm catches something and it just amplifies. That's so cool.
Yeah. So that manifestation, I kind of forgot about. I remember asking for it, but like I wasn't consistently like, when is this going to come through? I need this to come through. I was really just doing my thing. And I remember I saw that trend because it was a trend. So I saw it a couple of times on my For You page one night. I was like, I could totally do this with like childhood trauma. And that's on brand for me. So that could be fun. And I like went through and like did a little bit of research, like through my last videos on like, okay, so what can I talk about? What should I put in here? Wrote the little script and then made it the next day. And it just like, it immediately took off more than my normal videos. But then, like, once it really took off, it took off.
That's awesome. Okay, the forgetting part is this is really intriguing. And this is something I wanted to talk to you about too, because for me, I've experienced like I have to forget about it. That's what it seems
Mhm.
like when I think back, because it'll be something will come through and I'm like, oh yeah, like I wrote that in my journal just a couple days ago or
Right.
something like that. But I have this tendency to really want, I mean, Capricorn rising and Capricorn moon, and I'm like, and Virgo sun, right? So I'm like, let's organize things and then let's work diligently and let's do our thing. And so whenever I try to do that, it seems like nothing really happened. Like it's very slow
Mhm.
moving, but I get a lot of enjoyment about organizing this the stuff. So it's very confusing for me. Like, and I feel like there's probably other people thinking this too. Like, oh yeah, I can see how if I just kind of forget about it and trust how that opens up the space for it. But then also, how do I keep my business organized if I'm not paying attention to it?
Mhm.
So there's some kind of balance. But it feels like kind of like what you said, like you just kept showing up and doing your videos and it like
Mhm.
it was just
It
gonna
happened.
happen.
I
Is that
also was trusting that it was going to be an intuitive download that came through. And that
mm,
wasn't my first one. I had like a year ago now, actually. I got told that I was going to have a big Ace of Swords moment in September. And I was like, okay, cool. So I have to wait till September for it. And I was waiting and I did not forget that I was supposed to have an Ace of Swords moment, but I also wasn't like consistently looking for it. Like I did not wake up every day in September like, where the fuck is my Ace of Swords moment? You told me September. And when it came through, like I was just resting on the couch. So like allowing that openness to the intuitive download, I think is a big part of that forgetting, that it doesn't have to be like totally forgotten, but you shouldn't be the one orchestrating and planning how it happens.
mm, yes. That makes sense. Um, hold on. Question was trying to come through. Oh, can you explain an Ace of Swords moment for anybody who might not know what that
The
means?
tarot, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the tarot, swords is all about intellect, and the ace is always about something new. So there was going to be a new idea or a new intellectual thing coming through that was going to be significant. Because I remember it was like, it also told me it was high priestess, which if you don't know the high priestess, she is the divine feminine intuitive energy. She is in between the veil, so she is the most intuitive of the entire deck. And then it was Ace of Swords. So I was going to get that intuitive Ace of Swords, new idea. And this new idea was going to be something significant in my life that I needed to wait to come through. And of course, the entire time I was like, I have to wait till September. It has to be September. Because they told me this in like February. And I was like, what the fuck, guys?
Like rude.
Like they were like, just wait, just hold on. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah. I swear, I feel like there has to be a disconnect on what time means between the guides
Oh,
and
yes.
here because yeah.
For them, they're like, that's like tomorrow. It's fine.
Yeah. It's like, what's the big deal? It's September. Oh my God. That's forever away.
Yes. That's how I felt.
Yes, that's how I would have felt too. Yeah. But also, I feel like it's important to note, like you have the splenic authority, and so that splenic
Mhm.
authority does come in the moment as well. So I feel like I can hear some people say, like, oh, well, if you're splenic authority, of course it's just going to come down like that. Or, well, you're used to just waiting for downloads in the moment. What about me, who has emotional authority? I've got to ride through stuff or a mental projector. Like, I don't know, victim mindset, basically.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's intuition works differently, right? So even if I didn't have a splenic authority, you could say the same thing to me. Like, of course, you're psychic. You just wait for things to come through, or you always know what's going to happen in the future because you're psychic. You could say that really to anybody. You need
Mhm.
to understand your own intuition. And if you haven't started with understanding your own intuition, then I don't know how you expect to get any downloads. Like, really, you need to know how you get them.
Yes, yes, exactly. And be open to them. Like for me, I've noticed a lot comes through when I'm writing. I've realized I have to journal every morning. It's just the times that I have not been great. And so I just do. And sometimes it's a bunch of randomness, and then sometimes uh, guides will come through and a message will come through. And even if not, like in the middle of the night, I've been waking up in the middle of the night lately and I'll just start writing stuff, and that's when it comes through for me. But there's something about the writing that really
Mhm.
translates it. So
Right.
yeah,
And that's important to know.
yeah, yeah. Like you said, it's like everybody just start listening and observing. That's what I tell everybody anyway. Like observe what's going on, what's happening. Okay. Um, and I think that applies to all the different ways of manifesting, because I hear a lot, like you mentioned scripting, how you're not really a fan. And I'm not really either, honestly, but I can't tell you exactly why. But I hear people who swear by it,
Mhm.
saying affirmations to yourself in the mirror, or oh no, you mentioned others. There's all kinds of things. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. If you don't like it, chunk it. That's my
Right.
philosophy.
Yeah.
I feel
There's
like,
not one way to do it.
yeah. And I gotta say, like your whole vibe, that one day when you were like, I'm a chaos witch, I was like, oh, it like gave me some kind of permission. I was like, okay, cool. Me too.
Yes. I mean, I've always been obviously manifester, right? Can't tell me what to do. If you tell me I need 10 herbs to do a spell, I'm going to do it with two. Like, I'm not going to go buy 10 herbs to do a spell. That's not happening. I got two in my kitchen that you definitely mentioned. And like, I don't do a lot of the stuff that people do because it would just get in the way of my practice. And that's
Mm,
why I say, like, chaos works for me because I can do what I want. And like, I don't have to dress the candle and get the oils all over my hands because I hate that. And then
mm.
have it like become a fire hazard. Like, no, I just want to put my candle down and I want to fucking light it.
Yes. Okay, that was my thought when I was reading through candle magic stuff after we first talked about it, and they talked about the oil, and I was like, that feels like a weird mix.
I did it in the beginning and I've done it a couple of times to see like if it amplified the energy at all. And I didn't feel like it did. I felt
Mm,
like what it did was it would hit those herbs and then like that would create like a little spark. And then I would freak out that that's going to go off my table, or like a lot of people actually say when you do candle magic, put water around it just in case you get a spark flying. And I'm like, if I just use a candle, I'm not
Yeah,
going to have an herb spark.
good point. Yes, yes, and keeping it simple like that, so good. Like, the other night before I went live, I lit a couple candles, and I thought of you because I was like, "I just wanna clear energy, and I just wanna set an intention to connect to the correct people." And I
Mhm.
just pulled out the candles that spoke to me and lit them up, and they did what they were meant to do. And then I manifested you because I was like, "I have a question for Larissa," and then you popped in like 30 seconds later.
But you did, and then I got blocked, which was fun.
Yes, it was so weird. But we got it figured out. Oh, okay. So the manifesting, let me see. Is there what I know we have a couple questions that came through
Mm.
that I guess we could talk about and go ahead and answer those.
Yeah.
So the first one that came through for me, um, my kid's calling me, was the first one that came through for me was how can a mental projector help their manifestor and Manny-Gen friends manifest? Which was an interesting one. I wonder if you have a take on that.
I mean, the only mental projector I have interacted with would be you. Um, and generally, I am looking for, I guess, encouragement when I talk to you. And I'm looking for kind of that like a different energy to come in and like help me work through my own energy. Because, like, while everyone says, like, your manifester, your energy is so powerful, you should be able to initiate and just do things, like, sometimes it doesn't fully make sense what I'm being told or like what is coming through. So sometimes talking to a mental projector is good just because, like, your energy can come in and give me some of that mental clarity and help me really understand like what was trying to come through. Even by just being in your energy, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's what was supposed to be said that I wasn't totally getting. But also like believing in them, especially for a manifester. We are always bringing new things to life, and it is always fucking scary. So believing in them and encouraging them is really, I think, the number one thing that we don't get because we are initiating straight from source. And like, it's really hard to get encouragement from source. That's not how that works. And so giving that encouragement can be very helpful.
Okay, that was beautiful. I really appreciate that perspective because yeah, I don't often hear like how people feel in my aura from that place. So that kind of like, oh, that
Glad.
made me I get to give you some mental clarity. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think like kind of adding on to that, um, um, adding on to that, since we have to soundboard to really understand ourselves and to connect to that energy, I feel like once mental projectors really understand that, then we make really good listeners. Like we can be a good space for somebody else to just listen and to connect to themselves in that way. And so I guess to just piggyback on that, I would add like, yeah, just being that space for them to connect to their own energy and to connect to their own truth and listen to what is trying to come through. Especially one of my good friends is a Manny Jen, and I know she gets really excited about stuff. So
Yeah.
to talk through and um she'll I'm trying to be a mom and a podcast person at the
Yes.
same and I'm just owning it. It's fine. um so yeah, giving that space to talk through because it's just making me think too, like I feel like there can be so much put on manifestation and like doing it right, like you were saying before. And so I'm not worrying about that. And then, so another question, speaking of my manager friend, she's the one that asked me also about the arrows. So there's the whole manifestation arrow thing in the human design space. And I have a specific viewpoint on it. I want to hear your thoughts on that first, in case anybody doesn't know, it's like the bottom right arrow.
And that's like specific or non-specific, right? That's what we're
Hmm.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know for me, I'm a specific manifester, which actually really confused me at first because you're not supposed to manifest specific outcomes, right? It's what we were talking about earlier. That's not how it works. So I got really confused. Well, if I'm supposed to be a specific manifester, then am I supposed to manifest specific outcomes? And I heard someone else say something that actually really resonated with me and that allowed me to kind of go back through my previous manifestations and fully understand them. If you're a specific manifester, it's not that you should be manifesting a specific outcome in a specific date and making sure that everything lines up. It's that you should trust the specific thing that you want. And you should trust that you want that specific thing for a reason. So, like for me, I knew when I was buying my house, couldn't tell you why. And this was before I was into all the spirituality stuff. So, like, I just knew that the house I was going to buy had no houses behind it and it had a separate tub and shower in the master bath. Those were the two things I knew. Those were the two things I was looking for. And when I found my house, I swear to you, the only decent house that was on the market at the time, and like I kept looking because I wanted to make sure I didn't make a mistake because 1-3, whatever. But as I look back on it, I'm like, that is the only decent house that came on the market. And like, I knew because of those specific things, you need to outbid these other people and you need to get this house. Like, this is your house.
Mm, okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me because it's like specific, you're the one, you make the vision board, like what is it? If you're like you said with the house, here's these specific things that I want in the house. If you're wanting a car, it's like I want a red SUV, whatever it is, you get really in the details. And then with the right facing arrow, it's supposed to be more feelings oriented. It's non-specific. So it would be like, here's the feeling I want of the house. Here's how I feel when I'm driving the car that I want. It's not really about the details. So
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing was popularized by one specific human design person, and it's like similar to what I said before, if this works for you, then do it. If you're trying to make things happen based on this one little arrow thing, stop. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because it really is in the original system, like if we're looking at human design, this has nothing to do with that arrow. That's not anywhere in the human design thing. It was by this one person. But I can see where it's happening because it's about your perspective in life. It's how you view life. And the left is called focused, and the right is called peripheral. So if you have that left arrow, you have a focused view on things. That's just what you do. And if you have the peripheral view, which I do, it's like things kind of come in from the side. You have to kind of chill and let things come in. It's like the thing from the 90s, the magic eye thing, where I don't know if you don't probably remember this. So anybody who was around in the 90s. And oh wait, I was trying to remember what year. Oh yeah, forget how young you are sometimes. Uh,
Was born in the 90s.
It was just this cool thing, and I always think of this though because it's like this crazy thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google Magic Eye, and it just looks like this conglomeration of shapes. But then you like let your eyes relax and lose their focus, and then it turns into this 3D picture. So it's kind of what it seems like to me. If you relax yourself a little bit, then what you're seeing can come through.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, yeah, so that's what's going on there. But I do think it can be helpful to utilize your energy in that way, to just at least experiment with it, see if it supports you.
I mean, everything's an experiment. See if it works. If you don't like the manifestation that you put forward, it's not going to come through.
Yeah, yeah. I was just laughing. Like 213. So we're both 1-3s. We're like, just try it.
Just do it, God damn it.
What's the big deal? If you fail, you'll get back up.
I mean, isn't that what we're here to teach people? It's okay to fail. It's
Yeah,
fine. That's what we're
yeah.
here to do.
Yes, as annoying as that is sometimes. And there's one okay, so there's one we were kinda talking about before, where I think about manifestations. If you get something in your mind, like, "This is what I wanna manifest," like, I've been building my business for a couple years now, um, but I would hit, like, a roadblock or something would happen, it would just shoot me down. Like, a whole year, I was just so depressed, I could barely do
Mhm,
anything. And it was just weird because it's, like, right before that, I'm like, "No, I can do it, I'm gonna manifest, I'm gonna, like, do the mantras and put up my sticky notes and do the things," and then, like, crash and burn.
mhm,
And I feel like I know that's happened to other people too, and that can be so disheartening, like, if you think, "Oh, well, I was trying to manifest, but then this is what came out of it." Have you ever
mhm.
experienced anything like that or have any insights that you think was going on there?
Yeah, so in the times when my manifestations don't come through, it becomes very clear later on that it was out of alignment. So I started my career as a financial advisor, and that was not in alignment. It was adjacent, right? Like cuz the money was in alignment, but the financial advising structure and that was not in alignment, and like I wanted to succeed at that so bad. And
Mhm.
making that pivot was so hard. Like it took me a long time from knowing that I needed to make the pivot because I would get on these calls with people and be like, actually, my education's in psychology. I really like working with the money mindset. And that would be the thing that would interest people, not my financial advising. And then I wasn't selling
Mm.
anything over there, right? So that I wasn't selling anything. And it took me a long time to really make that pivot because for a long time I was like, no, because a financial advisor is like technically a job, right? Like it's an established industry, something I could be in, something that I could learn from other people on. And then that pivot was, no, you need to do your own thing, which this was before I knew anything about human design. So I didn't know I'm meant to initiate and I'm meant to start new things at the time. And it was a really hard pivot for me to make. But had I been successful in financial advising, even if I made some sales, but like even if I had made just like $80,000 a year, right? Like we'll call that like a normal income. I would have stuck with it because why would you leave behind $80,000 a year?
Right. Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree, and I don't know if this is just the 3 line in us where we just have to mess something up at first. Because I had a similar story where, like, I moved back here to be home with my family, right? And I was like, "I'll just be a teacher, like, that'll give me the same timeline as my boys, it'll be fine," and it kept blowing up in my face. I could not like, and I just wouldn't get hired, and it was for no good reason. And
Mhm,
then finally, I started like, right after COVID, my boss was actually my very first client. Like, I had my first little life coaching group thing, and she was the very first one to sign up. She's been amazing, she's still my best friend, and I got rejected for 2 jobs that I was really good at, and she was like, "You need to quit. You need to quit and go do this." And so it was like a similar thing. So I'm like, I'm good at this. I've been working at this school for 2 years already. You're not gonna put me in as a full teacher? That makes no sense. But I would have been miserable there.
right.
I don't really wanna teach Texas history to 7th graders,
Right.
but I would have done it.
Right, because it would have been there and
Yeah,
it's easier. That
yeah.
was yeah, definitely me with a lot. I also, when I didn't wanna do financial advising anymore, started looking for other jobs, and the only one I got was miserable, and I hated it, and it did not pay me enough. So, there was a lot of just like, "No, this is not in alignment, this is not what you should be doing," and sometimes, like, if you don't fully get that the universe is trying to show you that something's not in alignment, it can be really easy to get discouraged. Because I, for a long time, was like, why can't I get a job? Like I used to be a recruiter, like I would help with HR, like that's a good job and something that every company needs. Why can't I get a job? And come to find out it's because really I'm meant to initiate something completely new, and while that's taking longer than I'd like it to take, it feels more in alignment.
Yes. Yes. Same. It's just so interesting how that happens. But like you were saying, it's easy to get in discouraged when something's falling apart, especially like for me, I'm a single mom and all I wanted was a steady paycheck so
Mhm.
that I could make sure that I took care of my kids and I could have that schedule so I could be there, right? And then if I'm failing at this, that's where things really went off the rails for me, where I felt so much shame that I
Mhm.
couldn't get this job and just everything. So that's what I made the story about. So I think it took me a little longer to work through because of that, but at the same time, I had to work through that shame and I had to work through these low feelings. And honestly, I'm learning that I had to kind of be in this time of not making money because I was so scared that the world would just explode or something. Like I mean, all the fears of not having money, but spending time of not making a whole bunch of money and realizing I'm still here, my kids are still fed. Like,
Mhm.
they don't even know we had to fill out the FAFSA for my oldest kid for college, and he was so confused. He's like, "I had no idea we were this poor." I'm like, "Okay," like, they're taken care of,
Right.
and plus it was kinda nice, like, he got so many scholarships.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Okay, you know what?" In a way, like, money's coming from somewhere else.
Right.
Like, so he gets college for free now.
And that's
Uh
the universe taking care of you.
Exactly, exactly. So opening up to those other possibilities like you were talking about in the beginning, like where is the money coming from? It doesn't have to just come from this one paycheck.
Right.
It can come from these other areas. And and then I think too, seeing this experience like for my kids, I can see my manifestor kid watching me and he's like determined to be rich when he becomes an adult. I can see it. And I'm like, I wonder if he would have as much drive or insight if I just had like a steady teacher job. So what is this really teaching him? I don't know. It'll be interesting. Anyway, was there a question on your end?
Oh,
Room?
yeah, so I had someone ask if we stage our houses ever, which as you know, my platform is not entirely spiritual. So like I pull in people who don't know a ton about spiritual practices and there are no dumb questions, right? So saging, if you're spiritual, you know, is more of a cleansing practice. But a lot of people do recommend saging before you do any kind of spell work. As we've already established, I don't follow the rules. I have saged my house once, and that was right after I bought it. And that was only because it was a divorce house. And like I could feel the bad vibes. And I was like, those need to go. They don't
Mhm.
need to be in this house anymore. But I really don't sage because it's not good for your lungs. It's definitely not good for my pets. And so I like other ways of cleansing. I have a little bell, like a little witch's bell that I'll just kind of go around the house with.
Nice. I like those bells. I've been wanting to get one actually. I think they're so fun.
I like it. And it's easy and like I don't have to because I used to stage my crystals when I got them. And I don't
Mhm.
have to do that anymore either. I just use the little bell and like I also hate the smell of like anything in my house. Like
Right?
I cannot stand the lingering that the sage leaves. I just cannot stand it.
There's there was one time I like saged something. Luckily, I lived in Little Rock at the time and there was a bunch of hippies. But like saged like crazy, and then I went out in public and realized I very much smelled like sage, which also smelled like something else. And I was like, we're here now, I guess.
Whoops.
Yeah. So I very infrequently, if I feel called to, I will, but it's been a long time. So I'm not that concerned about it either, but I'm also a Reiki master, so I feel like I do energy stuff in a different way with that.
Mhm. Sage is like I would say it's where most people start just because it's the most talked about, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not the only way. And in I think a lot of people's opinion, not the best way to clear energy.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that I feel like people hear about because it is the best way to clear like an entity. Like if you had a negative entity of some kind
Mhm.
hanging around, then sage is the best thing to do. But like we don't usually have those just hanging around.
No, like there's more happening if that's
Yeah,
going.
exactly.
Yeah, which I do not invite into my space.
Well,
Maybe.
and I think what people don't realize, and we're going to say this is Christian propaganda because, like, it is, okay? What most people don't realize is, like, in religion, they tell you, like, the devil's always around. They're always trying to get you to do something bad. Like, no, he's got followers. He's
Oh,
got people who will do anything for him. And all of those negative entities have people who want to work with them actively. They don't want anything to do with you if you don't want anything to do with them. Like, they are being worshipped. Why would they want you?
right. They're not in the business of convincing,
Yeah.
really.
Like, they just want to be worshipped, and they are being worshipped. There are plenty of people who worship them.
Uh, it's just, yeah, that brings back so many old Christian things.
I feel like for a lot of people who do have to deconstruct that Christianity, because, like, even if you weren't religious, a lot of people at least went to a church event when they were younger. And,
Mhm.
like, it's something that you hear even if you just go to one church event. And the first thing you really have to deconstruct is, like, yes, there are other entities, and yes, there are negative entities, but, like, they don't have fun by messing with people who don't want anything to do with them. Like, that's not their vibe.
But I feel like they talk about that in church. Like, one church I went to freaked me out so bad because we
Hmm.
read these books and they're like, you have to be ready for spiritual warfare at any time. And I was so stressed. And I mean, I'm pretty sensitive and I didn't really understand at the time because I'm like 20, right? And
Hmm.
I know now that I'm pretty psychic. Like, I'm starting to work with my channel a little more. And all I knew is like that just made me feel so weird. I didn't know how to handle it, but I thought, "Oh, I've gotta be brave and strong for God." It's like,
Yes. It's a big control tactic because the easiest way to control people is fear. Like, that's psychologically proven. The easiest way to control people is fear. So if you believe, if I don't go to church, if I don't work with God this often, then the negative entities, they're coming for me. Like, they're not.
yeah, actually, that's kind of good for me too, yeah, because I feel like that trauma is always kind of in the back of my mind. That's why I
Yeah,
was like, "You're not invited here."
right. Whereas, like, I know I'm like, only things that are invited into my space are going to be in my space. Cause, like, if we break this down, you as a human, do you go and try and bug people who want nothing to do with you all the time? Like, is that your pastime? Never.
No, I feel like some projectors would have to say yes, but
Yeah. Like, maybe, and if you are doing that, then you shouldn't be. Cause, like, there are people who want your energy.
yeah.
Like, you should be going for the people who want your energy. And, like, deity, like, a lot of people also don't actually respect the kind of power that these entities would have. And so, like, why would they use their power on something that is insignificant to them?
Oh my gosh, you know what just hit me though when you were saying, "Do you go to places that don't want you all the time?" The church does. It's missionaries.
Yes. Yeah.
So it
Like,
makes
they are the negative entity.
yeah. So they do that, so it makes sense why they think that others would do that to them.
Mhm.
I didn't even think of that until just now.
They
Mm,
come knocking on your door. They show up. Apparently, they're now showing up in, like, department stores and just going around and trying to, like, spark up conversation. And, like, that's what they do. Like, in this grand scheme of things, the church is the problem, the whole problem.
yeah.
And that's a whole different conversation.
I
But,
know, I
like,
have to say that might be our next podcast.
like, I had to deconstruct a lot of, I went to a evangelical elementary school up until 6th grade. And so I was as in the cult as you can be in the cult. I'm in the cult. I actually closed off my psychic powers because someone told me I was working with the devil. And of course, I'm taught that the devil is scary. Whereas, like, now I'm like, I don't even know that I, like, totally believe that there's a devil, right? Just like I don't believe there's a God. Like, there are multiple deities that you can work with. So there are probably multiple negative entities as well in the same way, and they all probably have roughly equal amounts of power. And also, they don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah, yeah. Why are they trying and that whole rhetoric of, like, Satan's trying to take me off path or any of that. That drives me bananas because I feel like that's no. What's happening? So this kind of relates to the manifesting that we were talking about. When you're wanting to manifest something, let's just go back to the $10,000 because it's easy. Then you're going to have to expand a bit. If you've never brought in $10,000, then you're going to have to expand a bit. So there's going to be tests that happen. And people will see these tests as Satan trying to keep you down or something bad is happening, right? But if you think about it, anything that expands has to go through a growth phase. There's going to be test of the integrity because you want to make sure that it'll stay together, it'll stay structured. Even when you think about a string on a piano, you have to test it, you have to hit it and make it vibrate so that you can know if it's actually tuned correctly. So, no, it doesn't mean anything. It's not Satan trying to keep you down. It's God trying to expand you. That's my belief on it. Like it's your
Right.
spirit expanding you. So just stop with the nonsense.
Yes.
I also live in a very Christian environment, so I just like smile and nod most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even interact because, like, also sometimes you have to remember that people who are genuinely brainwashed in the church, like, they are brainwashed. They're not going to believe anything you say.
Yeah, and I was there. So yeah, I'm not trying, and plus their soul's journey is their business. Like
Right.
it's not for me. Like that's between them and them.
Whoever they work with, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Like today I was at the park with a friend. We were doing a little lunchtime walk and we're talking about tarot cards. And then this other mom comes by and I realize it's another basketball mom who's like super, super Christian and religious. And I was like, like I just stopped talking mid-sentence until she passed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
yeah,
easier than dealing with it sometimes.
yeah, yeah. I think just the fact that I'm a single mom throws most people off. So we're not gonna get into anything.
We're not going to go there.
Like they just don't know what to do with me most of the time.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so any of this like energy, like the world is energy, the universe is energy, there's all kind of entities, and I believe that I thought I turned my thing off. I believe that what like calls to like what's meant for you will be for you. So if you feel called to work with a specific entity with a specific energy, I mean, even if you're a Christian, I don't care.
Right.
But we're not judging people who do other things. If you feel called to not work with that stuff, then don't work with that stuff. Like
Hmm.
there's no have to do's here. Okay, I'm excited. Is there anything else on your mind about manifestation that you wanted to share?
I think just as like a closing thing, just make sure that what you're manifesting you genuinely believe can happen and you have the structures in place for it to happen. If you say you want $20,000 and you don't have a business for $20,000 to come through, how's it going to come through? Like it has to be, and you don't just have to manifest money. I know we talked about because everyone always manifests money, but like you can manifest whatever, right? Like abundance is not just money, which is something I work with a lot of my clients on. That abundance is not just money, it is not just things. Like abundance is friendships, abundance is your relationships, abundance is your relationship with yourself, your relationship with spirit. You can manifest anything and it doesn't have to just be money, but you do have to make sure that the structure is in place for that manifestation to come through and that you are willing to do the work.
That's a good wrap up. Yes, very important. And especially that abundance aspect. I just want to reiterate that because I do believe that's important. I think a lot of people connect abundance and money, but it's about more than that. And that's another lesson I've been learning this year too. Like, I haven't been abundant in money, but I've been abundant in time. Like, I don't
Mhm.
wake up to an alarm anymore. What a luxury is that?
Right?
You know? I get to go to all my kids' basketball games. Like that's what I started looking at. Look at all this other stuff. I have time to journal and I have time to connect to myself and connect to my higher self. So good. And I know that that's setting me up for a switch and that the abundance of money is coming next. But the level that I really desire couldn't have happened in the being that I was before.
Right. And I truly believe that the abundance of money, generally they send last because a lot of people do only see abundance as money. So then they stop looking for other kinds of abundance.
Yes, yes. Actually, one time with a client, she was freaking out about money, and I was like, "Start looking at the abundance of the world. Like, even if you're like, look at all the grass blades in my backyard,
Hmm.
like anything." And so she started doing that, and then she like someone randomly sent her money on Venmo for something, and she got a gift card from a student. Like, I don't know, she just randomly got like $50 that day, and it's like, there you go.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I love this topic of manifestation. I feel like it will be discussed more in the future. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom and your impactful manifestor aura. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.